When things go wrong, they go wrong in a weird way, and often it's the last thing you expected. You dropped some gear, you left something behind, maybe your belay device broke, or a friend fell down somewhere, and now tag, you're the rescue party. So it's really good to have some contingency plans and some skills up your sleeve so that you can deal with the situation irrespective of what it is. So I'm going to share some of the tips and the tricks from the climbing community, and especially some of the important knots that we use to stay safe when trad climbing in the mountains. I'm Clarice, welcome to the Live Ready channel. I feel like this is a good time to start off with, you shouldn't do anything silly in the wilderness to start with. Ideally, you should always have the right gear and do things in the correct manner. There's a reason why safety measures are implemented, is because they keep you safe and they prevent accidents from happening. Special thanks to the guys at City Rock for the great gear advice, and to all of my climbing friends who have given their input and climbing advice for this video. Step 1, build a decent anchor. To be completely honest, there is one part of my anchor here that I was a little dubious about, but it seems to have held me this whole time. So just to get started, the ideal here is to really have the right gear on you. What I'm showing here is if you've dropped something, or you've left it behind, or you've landed up in a situation where you need to help another person and you didn't have gear planned for a second person. So what I really appreciate about climbing knots is very often they are knots that are easy to undo, because you weight the knots with your own body weight. And so it's really important to be able to make a knot that you can untie after you've weighted it. So one of the ones that I think is really important is a knot that you can trust with your own body weight, a figure of 8 knot. So in order to do that, this is a 9.9 millimeter mammut rope. By the way, it is a proper climbing rope. It's a dynamic climbing rope. You don't really want to go and use anything less than a climbing rope in order to get yourself up and down somewhere. So to do a figure of 8 knot, basically measure an arm's length. For me, this is about more or less what works. Flip it over itself so that you've got a loop like that. Bring it through, and you can see your first figure of 8 forming over there. Now, if you have a harness, you've got 2 rope loops. You fit it through the rope loop, making sure that it actually goes through there, and then follow it through itself that way. Okay, until you land up with what looks like a figure of 8, and you can count 2, 4, 6, 8, and then make a safety at the top. Now I know that I can put my own weight on here. Right, I'm either about to just fall on my ass, or I'm about to, this is pretty nice. There we go. Hey, now we're having fun. Whee! This is a Gree belay device. There are many other ones. You don't actually even need a belay device. You can actually just use a beaner and a Munter's hitch. But seeing as we are talking about contingency plans here, what if you didn't have a belay device on you, or you dropped it, or you just had a piece of rope that you were going to help someone with? So you can actually come right without a belay device. So it's the next knot that I really want to show. It's called the Munter's hitch. So basically what you do is you go right over left, so you end up with a loop, and your thumb sits on top of the working end over there. Then you're going to take your hand and you're going to bring it back on itself 180. So almost like you want to double the loop. To check that you've done the Munters correctly, when you pull on it, it should go one way, and when you tension the line in the opposite direction, it should flip over, just like that. And then of course you'll never let go of the brake hand of your rope, but you can now use it to gently lower yourself down, or whoever you are belaying. And the minute you put tension on the brake line, then you've got the rope standing still again. The ideal would really be that you'd actually have the climber or whoever you're belaying tied in with the figure of 8, and you would have clipped the belay device or your knot or your carabiner that you're belaying them with onto your own harness. But you don't always have 2 harnesses available. So what happens if you don't have a harness at all? Well, there's a knot for that too. Now, like I said, you don't always have 2 harnesses. I've been in a situation where I've had to belay someone down it was actually a waterfall, but it's a rock face, and I only had 1 harness. Because the other person wasn't a climber, I had to let them down first, because there's no way that that person was going to be able to set up an abseil station for themselves and get themselves down. And then I also had to give my harness to that person. Right, so let's say for argument's sake you've got no harness. You've got a decent piece of rope that you trust, and you've maybe got 1 climbing grade or belay rated carabiner. You can actually make a rope harness for yourself. To do that, you would take the end of your line. Oh, it's cold out here, it's cold out here. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go right over left again. So I've got a loop. Then I'm going to take my bite, I'm going to feed it through my loop from the opposite end. You would go around your standing end, pull it through, and that should leave you with 2 loops on the one side of your knot. And now when you feed it back through the way you came, you land up with a 3rd one. Now you can dress and tension it a little bit, but you'll see quite clearly that you've now got 3 loops. 2 for your legs and 1 for your waist. And if you look carefully, you'll see which is which. So 1 for your waist, and 1 for each leg. As far as harnesses go, you want it to be snug around your legs, snug around your waist, so nothing excess. This can get quite awkward if you've got to do it on someone else. Alright, so I've now got effectively a rope harness. Now what I need to be able to do is to tie in to a carabiner or something that I can be belayed with if I am going to be belaying myself. But for the purpose of belaying another person, as long as you've got them sitting on a decent anchor, and you can do whatever you want with that. Just do like a safety around them or something. Doing like triple fisherman's here or something like that. Now if I needed to belay myself, I could also use the tail end of my rope to make a figure of 8 knot. Now I showed you one way. The other way in which you can do it is fold it double, then fold it around itself 1.5 times. So I'm going to go there, there's 1.5, and I'm going to come back through, and I'm going to try and keep it as close to myself as possible and take the tail in here and once again make a safety. Now you can see I've again got 2, 4, 6, 8 ropes going in here. Do a safety. Actually doing a safety around itself is better. Yeah. Safety knot. Now I can clip myself onto the other side of my rope here, and even if I don't have a belay device, I can once again go ahead and just do a Munter's that way and clip into that, and we can do a little visual check. It should flip over itself when I apply tension on the line in different directions, and then I can just take up the slack. Now if I am going to abseil down anything in any sort of fashion, it's always great to have an extra safety. If something happens for whatever reason, I let go of the brake end of my rope because this here is my brake, that I've got a safety device on. So once again, the proper beano. I have actually in the past had to clip a carabiner onto my belt instead of onto a harness, because once again I only had one harness, gave it to the non-climber, and so I was without a harness. So what I can do as a safety is to use a prusik knot. So this is one that I've tied with a double fisherman's, just to make a loop out of the rope. So right over there, and I don't even have to do the pretty bushcraft prusik. I can literally just wrap it around my break end of my line, dress it a little so it looks nice, and clip that onto my beano. And if for whatever reason I don't trust my rope or I don't trust my harness, I can go ahead and clip that onto my belt, always making sure that you lock your carabiner all the way, and then one turn back or a half turn back. And now I've got an extra safety that's sitting on my line. It's not the most comfortable harness, I'll say that. My prusik is actually going to keep my line from running through the munters even if I let go with my brake hand. And as long as I've got my brake hand sitting on the prusik, I can manage how fast I go down the rope and abseil down wherever I need to. The ideal is, of course, that you have a harness and that you've got all the right gear, and then that you clip your prusik onto another part of your harness and always make sure that your beano is locked all the way up, and then like a half turn back, take up some slack on the line here, bring the prusik up. There's one other knot that I would really recommend every survivalist, every person who spends time in the mountains knows, and that's a clove hitch. And it is actually one that we use in survival and bushcraft quite often. I'm just going to do it here on the line now because I've got this available to me. So clove hitches that we usually make in camping or bushcraft or survival is the one that you have an end or the last end of the line available to you. But if you don't have that and you need to anchor yourself to something, it's good to know how to make a clove hitch in the middle of a line. So for me, the fastest way and the easiest way to remember how to do it is holding onto the rope. Now I'm right-handed, so I hang onto it with my right hand. I grab behind it with my left on my working end. I bring them across one another, so I've got two, call them Mickey Mouse ears, and then flip the one over the other. Now I've got a clove hitch that I can clip into. So, for example, if I needed to clip something solid, not like this, but if I needed to clip something onto it in order to make a solid anchor, I can now go and clip a beano onto that, and I'm secure on that line right there. So for example, if I wanted to anchor myself on this line without being able to slide down or abseil or like move on the line, I can quickly make a clove hitch over here, clip myself onto that, if I can reach it, make sure my beano is tight, tighten my clove hitch right there, take some slack up here, and now I can sit on that and I know that clove hitch is not going to drop me. If I make a Munter's hitch here, it's going to allow me to abseil down. The clove hitch, on the other hand, even if I let go of everything, is going to hold me. Well, there you go, guys. All you need is a decent rope, some trusty carabiners, and a bit of know-how. I really recommend that everybody who spends time in the outdoors, especially in the mountains, go and do at least a basic climbing course. It really can save you, and at least it teaches you the basics of safety in climbing and building anchors. If you've liked this video, remember to hit like and subscribe, and until the next time, live ready.